So for my project, I chose Wishbone Restaurant. Wishbone is currently located at 1001 West Washington Boulevard, about one block east of the Harpo Studios. Um, I got in contact with General Manager Reyna Castillo. Reyna's been working there for about 11 years. She's got about 50 employees under her. Wishbone has a catering department as well as the restaurant, and the restaurant centers around Southern style food. Um, I chose this place because I thought it was a better fit for me. I think I like the atmosphere better, and I really enjoyed talking to Reina about her life and her choices as she was climbing up the ranks to be manager. Um, she talked to me a lot about the rise of her career to her current position and the ins and outs of the restaurant business. Um, right away when you walk in, you can see that has a very large presence. Reina landed her first job as an assistant manager at the age of 23. After being a bus person, a waitress at the local pub that she was working at. Um, that local pub was in Utah, and she got that job because her mother wanted her to get a job because she couldn't buy her anything else. So she was pretty much sent into the workforce by her parents. So I talked to her a little bit, and I wanted to keep the questions pretty general. I didn't want to take a lot of her time. I know that she was busy, but she was very helpful with everything. Uh, but the more I talked to her, the more I found myself asking more in-depth questions, more pointed questions. But in the end, I had to restrain myself. I had to pull back on the questions, try to just, you know, keep it general and see if we could just comb over everything. Because, I mean, the actual interview took right around an hour, and I mean, it probably could have gone longer. Um, so I guess one of the first questions that I asked her was if she felt that the human resources department was a necessity in our field. Um, and surprisingly, to me, she said no. She did not feel the need for human resources. Well, especially at Wishbone because it was still a growing business, and she did a lot of the hiring and recruiting herself. She said she had no real problem bringing in new people to fill the positions that she needed. On the contrary, about 2 years ago, she was bombarded with overqualified people that were being laid off from work and needed another job. I asked her to explain some of the recruitment habits that she had and the interview process. And she told me that they were a small business and they had large turnover, and it was very common for them. So they weren't necessarily trying to hold people to that restaurant. They were just kind of a stepping stone, according to her. Um, she said that they were that as a server she knew how to hire servers. She hired for personality, and that they were built to teach technique and habits, but that you couldn't teach personality, and that's what made the people come back to your restaurant was the fact that you had well trained servers with personality. Um, while we were talking about that, we got into the whole interview process and how she believes there's so many of the younger people coming into the workforce that have no professional ethic. Come in slouching. They come in unprepared without a pen to fill out their application. She feels that's something that could be taught before they send young people into send the young people into the workforce, which I agree. I do believe that there's a lot of things that we can teach our young people before they can actually go into the workforce that they need to be taught. Let's see what else we got here. I asked her about her experience growing into her career of management from then till now. And I think what she thinks her overall biggest growth was the ability to communicate what she wants and what she needs. Um, she, when asked what she thought was most improved over her 20 years of her career, she said, picking your battles and not overreacting to situations. She believes that she was very short-tempered when she first started her management career, and it didn't really help her out a lot. So she got to figure out who the people were she was talking to and what kind of situation she was in before she was either going to fight her battle or just let it go. Um, I asked her about some of the training um, of the current employees and what she might have learned from it. And she did admit that she was a little behind the curve on that topic. And she mentioned an instance where she was trying to figure out what to do about the employee meals and how some employees wanted employee meals to be provided for, and some of them didn't want employee meals because they had to pay for them. Some would want to bring their own lunch, but they couldn't keep their lunch in any of the coolers in the kitchen. So it was a big deal, and she had to figure out how to deal with that and what write out an actual rule for them to follow in order for them to have both either employee meals or bring their food from lunch. I asked her if she felt she was a motivational figure for her employees and how she felt she did that. And she says she does feel like she's a motivational person. Um, she comes every day with a positive outlook in her job and tries to provide incentive for her employees. Even at her worst, she comes in and she says she doesn't have a choice on whether or not it's going to be a good day sometimes. But she did say, and I quote, "You sometimes you just have to suck it up." So I mean, um, providing incentives is a big deal, especially if you're trying to keep people engaged in their jobs. So I think that was a really good way to provide that. Um, I asked her about some of her early mistakes, which I think is one of the bigger deals is learning throughout your career. And she did talk to me about a story about how it was difficult when she first turned over from employee to manager, and how the prof- personal friendships and personal work relations started to get intertwined, and how she was being accused of favoring certain employees because they had personal friendships. So she had to distance herself from many of her co-workers, and let some of those times off of work, go, because she couldn't be accused of, you know, favoring anybody over anybody else. So I think to me, that's one of the biggest things too. In order to be able to cross over to the management, you have to let go of some of the things that you do as an employee, as a regular employee. So that was a big thing for me. I asked her about her personal philosophy and how it had changed from when her management career began till now. And she said that she's more of an anticipation person. She said, and I quote, "You always have to be ready. You always have to be ahead of the curve." She talked about developing spreadsheets for all kinds of information that she needs, because you always have to be ahead of your employees and ahead of what's going on. So she did say that she was an Excel junkie, so she's got spreadsheets of everything. She says that's how she and I quote, CYA, she covers her as. Um, and she did say that the wishbone philosophies really mirrored hers, and that's why she was there uh, at till this day. Overall, it was a really good, conversation interview with her. She did share a lot with me, and I was really happy about it. Um, for her, she now, is trying to develop Wishbone with the owner and chef, and she's trying to get, she's trying to move it forward. And I think I see her, being really successful at that place. I hope that this was enlightening, at least entertaining for a bit. But that was my interview with Reyna Castillo from Wishbone.